Hello, and welcome to the Futurum Tech Webcast. I'm Shelly Kramer, Principal Analyst here at Futurum Research, and today I'm joined by George Koutsaftes, President and CEO of Honeywell Safety and Productivity Solutions, and we are going to have a conversation about the future of warehouses. Before we dive into that conversation, I'll preface this by saying, it's probably not news that we live in an increasingly digital economy. This includes a massive web of packaging and shipping and warehousing and distribution systems designed to meet consumer needs. Without this physical infrastructure, the digital economy wouldn't happen. It would grind to a halt. In the last few years, we've had all kinds of challenges, labor shortages, increased e-commerce demand, all of those sorts of things. We've seen companies rush to add automation and robotics to warehouse operations. In fact, the global market for warehouse automation technology is anticipated to reach about $21.7 billion this year. That's a big number. And this could lead to dark warehouses, which is exactly what George and I are going to be talking about today. George, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Shelly. It's great to be here.
And I know you're at an event and you're swamped with things to do. So thank you so much for making time for me. I really appreciate it.
I'm glad to do it.
Well, tell us a little bit, if you would, I'd like to know your backstory. Share a little bit about your career journey, maybe some personal information. Let's hear it.
All right. Well, so starting backwards, I've been with Honeywell for over 15 years, but my career started after I graduated in undergrad in 1991, and I was an internal auditor for Dun & Bradstreet and had an accounting degree and did that for about 5 or 6 years, and then decided I wanted to become an mergers and acquisitions advisor. So I went to business school, got my MBA in finance, and went down that path. And I covered the chemicals and life sciences industry for over a decade as an investment banker, mergers and acquisition advisor. And actually, that's what led me to Honeywell. Ultimately, they ended up needed somebody to run mergers and acquisitions and business development for one of their divisions. And I was interested in joining a company like Honeywell because I wanted to develop my career to be a general manager. So I took the role as an opportunity to do that, and I ran mergers and acquisitions and business development for about 4 years. Then started my career journey of taking different roles of varying responsibility, of running different businesses, and also I led a procurement function, which I never was involved in procurement before in my life. And it's a testimony about how Honeywell challenges their people and take on different roles and challenges to develop them, which is a great example. I'm a living example. Now I became a president and CEO of a business, which I never imagined in my life I'd be doing, and it's been a fun journey.
That's awesome. I am sort of a fan of the non-plan plan. That's kind of been my career journey. And like you, I have never said no to an opportunity that came along. And a lot of times, something has happened. I started my first company when I was 34. So I've been doing this for a long time. But if I had $1 for every time my phone rang or I got an email that said, hey, I need somebody who can do this. What do you think?
Yeah.
My answer is always yes, because I love learning and I love new challenges and all that sort of thing. So it is a testament very much to the culture at Honeywell. And I think that's awesome. Very cool. That's why I like people to share their backstory. I think it's so interesting to kind of hear the career progressions that we all go through. Thank you for that.
Yeah. No, my pleasure.
So dark warehouses.
Yeah.
What is a dark warehouse? What does this look like?
So it's as it would sound. It's a warehouse that is populated with a wave and a symmetry of automated solutions and robotics, all working in a synchronized fashion to basically move parcels into a facility, into storage, into picking, and then out the facility. And it's synchronized between robotics that would be utilized to offload trailers that would arrive at the facility, to robots bringing those pallets to depalletize them, and then bring those boxes onto conveyance, and then bring those boxes from conveyance to sortation, and then from sortation to picking. So it's a highly synchronized future. We're not there yet. It's a long way away, but the technologies are existing today, and it's going to become something that everyone's really moving for.
Dark warehouses, who knew? So warehouses in general, right? We're seeing, as I said when I kicked off the show, we're seeing tons of investment in new warehouses, both in physical buildings and into technology that powers them. What's driving that? I mean, obviously, a huge customer demand, right? And a shift in our world in general. But what else is driving that?
Well, yeah. So the first thing, as you mentioned, is there was a massive wave of growth in e-commerce before the pandemic, but the pandemic really kind of accentuated that. And so many of our customers were trying to stand up automated warehouses as fast as they could to keep up what they saw was growing demand.
Right.
We've kind of gone through that wave now, and now our customers need to do a couple things. One is they need to extract the highest possible value of those investments they made. And it's by augmenting those investments either with robotic solutions to go on the front end of the back end of sortation, or put software to help to drive interoperability of different assets. But the other piece they're solving for is labor scarcity. Labor scarcity is a big problem today in the workforce, and the warehouse industry is no different. There was a study done that said over 73% of warehouse operators say they're dealing with scarce labor workforce issues.
Right. It's funny, when you started answering this question, the first thing I was thinking about is labor issues. So very much a reality really across every
Oh,
industry.
indeed.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. So dark warehouses then serve to alleviate some of these challenges.
They do. And we can really help a customer, navigate that journey ultimately to a dark warehouse, right? And like I said, the technologies are being developed today, but they do have to achieve a certain scale and efficiency and cost. All three have to kind of come in together at the same time,
Right.
to have a truly dark warehouse. However, the pieces are here. You have robotic unloaders for tractor trailers that take all those massive pallets off the trailer. Robots exist for that. Then we have robots that can actually depalletize, that pallet. Think of those pallets as like Jenga, like a Jenga game, right? With boxes, different shapes and weights, but you need machine learning and algorithms to be smart enough to know how to pick up the right box and know what its size and weight is and move it to the next direction. So we have that technology exists. And then you have these robots that will move single boxes or totes, from one picking lane to another picking lane. And then you have sortation, right? So this is, storage. This is a massive grid where totes can be stored in the grid. And then you have robots moving inside the grid to kind of move the totes from place to place. So the technologies exist. We have to mature them to get this scale, cost, and efficiency to meet the dark warehouse requirements. And that's what the industry's been working towards.
Got it. So let's talk a little bit about interoperability, because that's kind of a major buzzword today across all industries, interoperability. But I believe that what we're dealing with here is a bit of an interoperability gap. And that's a big challenge for this industry. So can you speak to that just a little bit?
Yeah. So if you think about what's happened thus far, companies have been adopting new technologies to automate their warehouse. And with a massive change of technology and innovation, new technologies will crop up 2, 3, or 4 years later that they may be able to adopt to help improve productivity, improve output. And yet they may be on a different system. So what you have now is many warehouses with a web of disparate assets that need to be able to communicate better than they are currently. And so we've launched a suite of offerings to kind of help drive that. We have our Honeywell robotic control system, which helps robots learn from learning algorithm, machine vision, of how to work amongst each other and not, basically crash, right? They have work instructions so they can work effectively and more efficiently. Then you have what's called Momentum Warehouse Execution System. And what that does, it allows an operator to basically choreograph different assets, whether it's an unloader to a sortation system, from a sortation system to an AMR that's going to move boxes. So it does all the planning of the different assets that exist in the facility in a seamless fashion. And then below that is machine control, which is the ability to control the individual unit operation in an efficient and effective manner. You need those 3 layers of a software stack to drive interoperability. Otherwise, a warehouse operator will be lost. And to tie all that together is what we call Honeywell Forge Performance Plus, right? So that's a software system that allows a warehouse operator to plan their day based upon predictive and preventive analytics we're providing them on the uptime and reliability of all those disparate assets and workers, because we can provide guided work instructions to those workers and then inform the warehouse manager about how those workers are performing efficiently or effectively. So efficiency software, then you have software to make the different assets communicate and work together. And then you have software that actually makes the robots kind of work interchangeably within each other, so they don't basically confuse or create inefficiencies. And we could do that.
So as a business owner, what I'm hearing here that is attractive to me is that I have this technology stack within my warehouse powering different things. And what I don't have to do is go in and rip and replace to be able to use some of this technology from Honeywell. It can work and be connected within this system of solutions. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Because that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing.
That's a very important proposition for our customers to know.
Right.
So they don't have to rip out existing investments. We can help them take best advantage of it through the software stack of interoperability.
Well, and it sounds like too, the solutions allow a glimpse in, visibility into where we're getting snagged, where there's a problem, where there's an adoption problem, where, kind of identifies these issues in a way that continually helps streamline and optimize and be more efficient within the system as a whole. Is that right?
It is. So when we go into a warehouse and they adopt our Honeywell Forge Performance Plus application, we will generate what's called a digital twin.
Yeah.
So it's a digital persona of that whole warehouse, of every asset in that facility, including the workers, right? And we baseline that digital twin with performance metrics that we were given historical basis. Then from that, our algorithms get smarter and smarter as every day goes, and now we're providing everyday insights to the warehouse manager about what assets are robbing them of productivity, where they have leading indicators of downtime, or where employees aren't working as effectively or efficiently, where we can tell them, hey, listen, this group of employees had downtime. They didn't have planned work go their way today. We see that, and we can actually help provide solutions for solving for that.
Well, again, as a business owner and as a leader of and manager of people, this is music to my ears, because that's what you're looking for, right? That,
Right.
Technology that does the heavy lifting, the technology that does the identification of issues. And so, I can take all this information and strategically make decisions moving forward that, with this technology is sort of my my strategic partner. So I like that.
Yeah, think of it as a dashboard
Yeah.
of that allows you to see and make those decisions on a daily basis, monthly basis, and on an hourly basis.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm a fan. So let's talk about customers. What are, I know you're immersed in conversations with the customers on a daily basis. So talk with me a little bit about what customers are sharing in terms of their key pain points and challenges that they immediately need to address, and then, what's in the future.
Sure. So there are two big themes that our customers are trying to address as major pain points. One is the labor scarcity issue we spoke of earlier, and that's real for our customers. And they're trying to address that in a couple ways. One is how to take better use of automation that relies less on workers. Secondly, they're looking for solutions like what we can provide, which is guided work instructions. So we actually help develop standardized work instructions based upon our customers' input that can allow workers to follow work procedures in a standard fashion that gives them more productivity. And so you get more productive output, you need less workers in that regard too. So one area of major pain points, labor scarcity and solutions they need for that, which is robotics and software to alleviate the pain point of labor scarcity. The second big thing that they're trying to really drive is, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of our customers made massive investments in capacity to stay ahead of the massive wave of growth in e-commerce, right? And now they're at the point where those investments need some tweaking or upgrades to make more productive, so they get more return on investment. They're always trying to squeeze return on investment out of assets, right?
Right.
So we call these brownfield upgrades, right? So we will walk into a site, we'll do a site audit, we'll emulate and simulate their operations through our own software, and we'll make recommendations on, well, you can augment your operation through a smart flex depalletizer, or you can augment your operation through our guided work instruction software package, or you can augment your operation through a auto unloader from the truck. So we will look for those opportunities to help the customer make good return on investment decisions to upgrade the return on the assets. The second thing that's happening is most people commonly kind of think about the massive wave of investment that's made recently, but we've got customers that have made investments in automation decade plus ago, right?
Right.
And those assets are starting to reach retirement age, and they need to be, replaced and upgraded. And so we're seeing, opportunities there for that as well, because again, our customers are not looking to do expansions as much anymore. They're looking to kind of get more ROI out of the existing assets that they have.
Right. Makes perfect sense. So at what point does an asset reach retirement age? Is it, and I'm really bringing this up as much for somebody listening to or watching this conversation to maybe to spur thinking about that. Is it a decade? The pace of technology advancement is so rapid. When you look at just what's happened in the last 5 years alone, right? And it used to be you could kind of develop a strategy that would last you a certain amount of times, and now I think for me anyway, that a strategic exercise is an always evolving exercise, right? I'm always evaluating. Here's what I thought. Here's where we are. Here's what I need to shift. So if you have a warehouse manufacturing facility and your equipment is a decade old, it's probably time for an assessment, for some kind of an audit, isn't it? If you haven't already done that.
Absolutely. But moreover age, it's really what, to your point earlier about the rate of change and innovation that might have impacted the assets that they currently have, and whether or not they're keeping up with their competition in terms of throughput and productivity, right?
Right.
That, to me, more than anything else, really drives the decision making that our customers have. Now, don't get me wrong, I do have customers that are looking just to make upgrades to assets that are a decade old, and they like where they're at, and they want to just kind of keep them continue. That's good. And those opportunities do exist as well, and we can provide that to them in a seamless fashion. But we do audits. So we have a whole service organization that will go in and do customer audits for free to help them understand what their options are. Now, certainly we hope they choose Honeywell as their solution provider, but they don't have to.
Well, what I like about that, though, is again, and I spent a career as a strategist, so this is what I'm honing in on. Part of the beauty of working with a vendor partner, even on that first step, that's an audit, is the conversation that you're able to have when you're looking at that audit is your team at Honeywell is able to give you kind of a snapshot of what else is happening in the industry. And I think that it's wonderful and it's understandable, wanting to preserve investments in legacy systems and all that sort of thing. And again, I am not a fan of rip and replace it all being the only solution, because in many cases that's not a viable solution for a lot of businesses. But understanding beyond my own facility or facilities and what legacy equipment I have and what I may have an interest in or a budget in potentially replacing or augmenting or whatever, I feel like another part of that, what I look for from trusted vendor partners, is I want to know what's going on in the industry. That doesn't necessarily mean I want you to tell me, competitive information that you have under NDA, but when you work with someone who is immersed in providing these solutions across the industry, what you get is insight into here's what's happening across the industry. Here's what some of your competitors are doing. Here's where they are perhaps in a position to develop a competitive advantage, and you want to be thinking about that because that can impact your business. And I think those are the conversations that excite me as much as anything from just an initial starting point of an audit, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting. I speak with customers every week, and when I speak with them, they're asking me, like, what are our, they want to know what
They
their
want to
competitors
know.
are doing, right? Like are my problems like the same as everybody else, or am I unique? And these are interesting conversations to have because it really helps us to identify what their true pain points are, what they're trying to solve. But secondly, that they know that they're not falling behind. And sometimes I will tell them, hey, you're falling behind.
Yeah,
Again, you don't need to use us, but I highly recommend you consider this sort of solution, right?
right.
So it's a valuable part of the engagement that builds trust and ultimately leads to good outcomes for our
Yeah,
customers.
I agree. I'm a big fan of, I mean, we audit our systems all the time, whether it's what we're doing, different parts of our technology stack or, all of that stuff. That's the only way, right, is taking those deep
That's
dives
right.
and looking, and also, working with, as I said, trusted vendor partners to me are so important because that's really how taking those first looks, taking those audits, taking those dives, getting those recommendations, that's how you can plot a path forward. I think it's a really important part of the equation.
Yeah,
So
indeed.
you are speaking to us from ProMat, which happens to be one of the biggest
I am.
manufacturing and supply chain trade shows, and it's in Chicago this week. And
Yes.
my daughter lives in Chicago, and she said yesterday that it's a little chilly there. Um,
Yeah.
so you
A
keep
little
that
cold. Yeah.
just a tiny bit, right? So tell us if so I know you've been out on the show floor. I know you've been talking with customers. Oh, tell us what are some of the big trends that you're seeing at ProMat?
Well, again, I hate to sound like a broken record, but the big trend is around labor scarcity
Yeah.
and brownfield upgrades. That's what it is. And there's a greater and greater focus around how robotics can augment, their problem solving, right? So
Right.
uh, I've seen from last year's to this year's show a change in the depth and level of interest in robotic solutions
Yeah.
as the technology continues to mature. And we have a couple of things we're pretty proud of. One is our SmartFlex depalletizer, which I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
This is a unit operation that, as I mentioned earlier, can take a pallet, looks like a Jenga thing, right? And with smart machine learning, and machine vision capability, can detect the size and weight of the box and put it, grab it in the right way and put it in the right place. We've been able to replace a manual operation and drive 30 to 40% throughput improvement overall at that part of the operation of a warehouse. And not only that, but our customers have told us that operation, depalletizing, that was manual, is the area where the biggest safety issues too.
Oh,
So
of
now we're
course.
helping them improve employee engagement as well as better productivity.
Well, and by
So
the
it's
way,
a really fantastic.
no, I think it's terrific. And, the thing about it is people talk a lot of times. I mean, I've been covering the automation space for many years. And when this conversation comes up, there's always an uproar about replacing jobs. And, this is a twofold conversation. On one hand, in some instances, we have a labor shortage, and filling these kind of jobs is increasingly difficult. But
It is.
equally as important, when you have conversations with people working in warehouses who are unloading pallets and you say, hey, how much do you miss unloading pallets? I'm pretty sure that
Right.
the answer is, We don't miss it at all because that was not the most fun job and it is a dangerous job. And so, I mean, these advancements play a big role. You mentioned culture and employee experience. I mean, when you can deploy employees to do jobs that require more critical thinking and less physical labor, I think that that makes for not only a safer work environment, but for a happier work culture too. And that's important.
It's a really good point. While we are reducing jobs like depalletizing, which is a
Right.
heavy labor sort of job for people, which they don't really want to do, it allows us to redeploy them towards other jobs in the facility to apply critical thinking skills. And this will just generally increase employee engagement. This is a good thing.
I agree. 100% agree. And that's kind of that's kind of what I preach on a regular basis. So as we wrap up this show, George, tell us if there's anything on your mind that you think that to expect from warehouse automation this year. What's the big thing that we can look for?
I think one of the things that is a big trend that you're going to see develop this year is the fact that there are large, sophisticated customers we talk about every day who are making these investments in large warehouse automation or robotics. But there's a class of customers who are trying to climb the automation journey themselves. And what's important to them is that is both, aligning cost to productivity to scale. And standard solutions, we think, are going to be a trend setting into the future here. And the importance of building standard solutions is tying, a standard offering of automation, sortation, robotic with software and scaling it. And that's going to be the big trend. Allowing somebody that, we're not solving for $1 million square house facilities. Maybe we're solving for 100,000 square feet facility. That's a different design model, different need.
Right.
But they need that too. They need that automation too. And so it's important that we do our job to provide a standard scale solution that they can get in a quick turnkey fashion. That's going to be a big trend, I think.
And that grows as you grow, grows as you need it, which is, and I think that's the beauty to me of technology solutions today. Unlike a lot of legacy equipment, you had to figure out what you need and you bought it and it had to serve you, right? And the cool thing about software technology solutions is that they can scale up, they can scale down, they can grow as you grow. And I think that that is a tremendous value add in terms of when you're looking at the ROI of your investments. That's pretty important.
Big time. And, nobody can, not everybody can afford making massive investments up front. They want to buy their way up, buy their way up the curve.
All right. This has been a fantastic conversation, George. And I really appreciate you making time while you're at this event in Chicago to spend time with us. To our listening audience, this is George Koutsaftes, President and CEO of Honeywell Safety and Productivity Solutions. I will include in our show notes a link to some more information about the solutions that Honeywell just released, along with some information on where to find George if you want to reach out and have any questions. But George, thank you so much for sharing with me today. It's been a terrific conversation, and I wish you a great rest of the week at this event.
Shelly, thank you so much. It was a pleasure meeting you. I enjoyed our conversation as well. Have a great day.
All right. We'll do it again soon.